Greetings from Cybertron. This is SoundJack here with another episode of SoundJack's Rambles. And today I am here with Alyssa.
Peace.
And Noah.
Hello.
That's 3 weeks in a row for you.
Yeah, this is third week in a row, fourth podcast, I think. Because it was The Incredibles I did.
Yes.
Incredibles was the first one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then...
I'm honored.
And today we are here to talk about Spaceballs. Yeah. So this film was chosen to be done this week from a poll I decided to run on my Twitter. You should go check that out if you aren't. And I had a few different films because I keep forgetting to say this in the other podcast for the month, but because this is like the first month of like the summer movie season, I'm like, hey, let's make a movie May and like just have it all be movies. So I needed a fourth, the final one, and I just put some different films on, and people voted for Spaceballs, and I am very glad because once I thought Spaceballs should be the final option for the poll, I was like, I hope it's Spaceballs.
Yeah, I kind of hope the same too because this movie is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So.
And if you think it's so much fun, why don't you give us a brief summary of this movie, Alyssa?
All right. So, okay, basically, the summary that I'll give, or like the short version, is it's basically a parody of the first, well, not even the first, but just like Star Wars. So if you've seen the first 3 Star Wars movies, or even just a Star Wars movie, you kind of know what you're getting into. But basically, the plot is, there's a evil empire stand-in called Spaceballs, and they're led by Lord Helmet, and he goes to capture the Princess Vespa, who escaped her planet, and they're also trying to get air from planet Duridia, which is where she's from, and then Lone Star, who's like the Han Solo, Luke Skywalker hybrid dude, and his pal Barf are intercepted by King Roland? Roland, I think his name is. Roland? I think Roland. It's a very normal sounding name.
Yeah, it's Roland.
King Roland intercepts them and asks them to get money. He asks them to get his daughter back, and he'll pay them a lot of money, which they coincidentally need to pay off Pizza the Hut, who is the Jabba the Hutt analog, obviously, in this story. And so it's basically the adventure of saving the princess and all the wacky hijinks that happens and lots of parodies of Star Wars. So
and a lot of other sci-fi too.
Yes.
Mostly Star Wars.
It's mostly based in Star Wars. So like I said, if you've seen Star Wars, you kind of already know what's going to happen.
Yep. Yes. And yeah, that's a pretty good summary. So how did we all first learn about Spaceballs? Noah?
It may come as a shock to you given what we just said, but I saw Spaceballs in, I think, 6th grade with one of my friends in middle school. And at that time, I loved it. When I saw it first, I loved it. But at that time, I had never seen a Star Wars movie, any of them. And I enjoyed Spaceballs for years without having seen a Star Wars movie. And we can talk a little bit more later about why it was still effective without having seen Star Wars. We can talk about that in a few minutes. But I just saw it out of middle school shenanigans.
Cool.
Yeah, nice. Alyssa?
I don't remember the first time I ever saw Spaceballs. I know my dad really likes the movie, so I want to say that's how I first saw it. I saw it at home with my dad. And sometimes they'll like play it on TV. I know one of my friends in middle school coincidentally also had Spaceballs, and I might have watched it with her too. But I don't remember my exact first viewing. But suffice it to say, Spaceballs has been a thing that I've been aware of and loved for a while. So it's one of those movies I don't know how I first got into it, but I did get into it. So
yeah. And for me, I'm trying to remember correctly, but because I don't exactly remember, but if I'm correct, I think Noah might have been responsible for my first.
I think I was.
Yeah, I think so too, because I definitely remember it was around high school. I'm pretty sure it was you. I'm pretty sure it was you that showed me Spaceballs for the first time.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you. And so before going into spoilers, we really got to talk about how do we like this movie? Do we like it? Do we not?
I guess I'll start. I really like this movie a lot. I think, so the way I would put it is that if you really like comedies and parodies, or the idea of parodies, but something like Young Frankenstein is a little too, like, not referencey to something that you're familiar with for you, I think Spaceballs is very approachable. I will admit that I don't think Spaceballs is the best Mel Brooks movie. I think Young Frankenstein's better. I think I like that one a little more. I also think Blazing Saddles is a little better, at least as far as terms of like the like how specific the commentary is. Spaceballs is still good though. I'm not trying to trash on Spaceballs. I do really love this movie, and I think that especially if you're a Star Wars fan, I think anyone who likes sci-fi too will love this movie. So, and again, like if some of the other Mel Brooks movies are like a little not where you are, or don't really appeal to you, I think this one would probably appeal to most people.
Yeah. Noah?
I mean, I love it. I love Spaceballs. I think that oh gosh, I had a nice intellectual statement out the window.
Oh no.
It was along the lines of Spaceballs is a movie that shows its age, but not inherently in a bad way. So I think if you view it the same way you would view the original trilogy of Star Wars, because if you think of the filmic language of the 70s versus the filmic language of today, it's definitely different. Both the original Star Wars trilogy and this do move more slowly than today's film, just from historically progressing and shorter attention spans. So I do think it shows its age, but I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. I think it's very much a 70s comedy, and it couldn't be put up on the shelves with the other 70s or 80s. I think it was 80s comedy.
Yes. Very nice. And for me, I like the film. I really like it. I don't think I have anything as intellectually stated as either Alyssa or Noah. It's just a very fun romp with sci-fi involved.
Yeah, a very fun romp's a good way to put it.
Yeah. What Noah?
I said, and I think that is the point when you boil it down. I think we can do as much filmic analysis as we can, but it's just Mel Brooks, kind of poo-pooing pop culture, which is always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true. So now with that all done, let's get into the meat of the film. I'd say the spoilers of the film, but I mean, this is a 30-plus-year-old movie.
And also, like I said, if you've seen a Star Wars movie, you know what's happening in Spaceballs. So, yeah, there's not a lot of surprises in this movie.
And like with Star Wars, it's 40 years old, so like you've had your chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. But is there any place anyone would like to start?
Do you have a place you would like to start? Because I will say one, unless I will devolve the conversation.
No,
I don't have anything
take it.
particular.
Why don't you take it, Noah? Go for it.
Let's talk about. Can we talk about the movie on its own as it stands alone, apart from Star Wars?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Because that's originally, like I said, that's how I came into the film.
can.
I came into the film having not seen any Star Wars, and yet I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I will make the argument that you do not have to see Star Wars to enjoy this movie. However, you do need to not have lived under a rock, because having watched the movie now in more recent years, having seen Star Wars and, getting more of the adult humor as well, I got more having seen it, but without having seen it, everybody still knows the Star Wars tropes. It has become so embedded in popular culture that you don't have to know. You don't have to have Jabba the Hutt's speech memorized from the real Star Wars in order to know that Pizza the Hutt is a parody of Jabba the Hutt. You don't need to. I think you just have to have lived in popular culture, because that's how I first got the movie, and I did not feel left out. It would be as if somebody made an Indiana Jones parody or Back to the Future parody. Those are both franchises. Admittedly, again, I have not seen all the way through. But if I would have no problem spending $10 going to see a Back to the Future parody, because it's so ingrained in popular culture that I will understand it. And I think Spaceballs does a good job of inclusivity with their audience.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I think one of the strengths of the Mel Brooks movies, which I talked about a little bit in Young Frankenstein, but I'll mention it here again, is that the reason why I think Mel Brooks' parodies work so well is that he really entrenches his movies in the movie he's parodying. Like, the reason why the parody works, in my opinion, is because he understands why Star Wars works. Spaceballs takes what works about Star Wars and puts it in there, but it also, makes fun of it, too, at the same time. And I think a good parody comes from a good knowledge of what makes of steeping itself in what it's parodying. It's not just okay. In other words, it's not just about making references to Star Wars. Lord Helmet is funny not because he's a reference to Darth Vader, but because he turns Darth Vader. It's turning Darth Vader from this intimidating villainous presence to Rick Moranis. Imagine how shocking and hilarious it would be having a character like Darth Vader be someone like Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis is this, goofy dude, plays with dolls, he has a really silly outfit, it's taking the menace of Darth Vader and turning it on its head. But you can only get that you can only really make that good joke if you know that Darth Vader is menacing. Well, not the audience, but I meant the creator. Yeah. Or the fact that I forget, but that's to me a good example. Or even the first opening shot, where the spaceship's flying by and it takes literally a minute for the spaceship to go by, and
we counted. I counted. It was a full minute and 40 seconds from the time the ship started crossing the screen to the next scene.
Yeah.
I will say with no shame, I have never watched that full scene without fast forwarding through the show.
We did. We watched it. We were just. It's a long scene.
Yeah.
It's which to me just makes the joke land even more because you're just like, how large is this thing? And it's totally making fun of how large spaceships are in the Star Wars movies. Yeah. Like, even that little detail to me shows that, like, this movie understands the Star Wars films and sci-fi in general and is trying to, like, is making fun of those small elements.
What I think is particularly funny about that, and by the way, I know this is an audio thing, but just for you guys, I'm just coloring a piece of paper. I'm not doing anything important. I have full attention on you. In case you're wondering why I'm looking down here. Okay. Anyway, sorry, just needed to clear that up. What I think is particularly funny about that ship, apart from the obvious joke, is that this was made in the 80s.
Right.
They did not have CGI in the 80s. Mm-hmm. So somebody made a very, very long spaceship model and filmed it, which I think is funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like that's the thing is that's not an easy shot.
No.
I think that's half of for me as like as a special effects nerd, I laugh at the fact that somebody took so much time and effort for that. Not that CGI doesn't take time and effort. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But the fact that somebody put blood, sweat, and tears into this joke really kind of just amuses me.
Yeah, that is a good point. Like that a lot of the work in this is like all model work and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I definitely think that the movie does work on its own as a like sci-fi adventure, which again I think makes the comedy and the parody elements stronger.
Yes, but let us talk about some of those parody elements.
Sure.
Let's start with the Schwartz.
The Schwartz. Yes. That's okay. I gotta say, like the funny names, just oh my god. So goofy, you know, Yoda being yogurt, and I love how sometimes it's not even just the name switch, right? Like they go all the way with it. Mm-hmm. Yogurt he's just not named yogurt just because it's hilarious that like it's just oh man it's like Yoda. He says I'm just plain yogurt, you know, like or yogurt. I hate yogurt, especially the strawberry kind. You know, like they make fun of the fact that they use the fact his name is yogurt and like go through with it.
And if I may just bring this up really quick because it's very similar vein, the jam with the raspberry.
I'm gonna jam the radar. Jam it.
I love a good pun.
And yeah, so there's like all these really great puns that are just awesome. I think so for me, I think the strongest commentary in the entire movie on Star Wars is the whole merchandising bit. That I'm just like, I feel you. Like just him going like, merchandising, that's where most of the money lives. And I'm like, yup. And because that, even in the 80s, like, Star Wars was well known to be a merchandise thing.
Yeah. And to get a little more real-world political in it, that is also, the 80s was the era when Reagan deregulated.
It was like how toys are marketed to children, essentially. I don't remember the exact law.
I don't exactly remember the exact law, but it allowed for a lot of commercialization. Star Wars was able to be commercialized beforehand,
right?
Because it was not
specifically
an advertisement for the merchandise. The merchandise came after,
right? So basically, like. In the 80s, because it's the 80s, like stuff like Transformers, He-Man, Thundercats, like basically all the 80s cartoons had toy lines before they actually had like shows. And so the fact that he's using that, so yeah, that does make the joke even stronger because he's not only poking fun at Star Wars being a merchandising vehicle, but also the sort of kind of climate of like kids' entertainment at the time too.
Also, the fact that while we were watching it, we watched it yesterday in preparation for this, and I never noticed this before, but on Spaceballs the coloring book, the image is of Optimus Prime running.
Is it really?
It's straight up Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
I posted it to Twitter, so you can check it out, Noah, or if anyone wants to check out my Twitter or a couple from Saturday.
I also might put the picture right
Wait,
here
that's really
in the
funny.
podcast
Yeah.
to show you guys. But yeah, that was really funny. That little detail. And I also liked, Spaceballs the flamethrower. Like kind of showing, which is also a funny joke because it's like. It's also like thinking I think it might also be poking fun at the fact that like guns would sometimes be sold to kids as toys, like that kind of stuff.
Megatron.
Yeah, Megatron is just a gun. So yeah, I think to me that's probably the strongest like criticism of Star Wars in the movie. Yeah. Criticizing the merchandise aspect. And I also think it makes for like a funny like joke that runs then through the whole movie where every single thing has like Spaceballs on it, like Spaceballs the toilet paper, Spaceballs the poster, Spaceballs the placemat. Like you just see them like all throughout the movie. That just also makes me happy too.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, and then I had something to go off of that. Okay. Darn it, I don't remember what it is.
Must have been a lie.
I don't think it was a lie, but it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like something a liar would say.
How dare you suggest that I am a liar, Noah?
I'm sorry.
Noah Sundum Left Keys, that is your real name?
I don't actually think that. I was lying.
Oh, dang.
Anyway. I really forget what I was going to say. Anyway.
Okay.
So...
I also I think this is probably one of the few is it the first Mel Brooks movie that has fourth wall jokes in it? I'm trying to remember if Young Frankenstein has any fourth wall humor in it.
That's a staple of his stuff.
Yeah. I doubt.
It's a consistent
because I don't remember Young Frankenstein having that many fourth wall jokes. Maybe there was like one or two that I just didn't see.
I would argue that they're in everything that he does. I think that's one of his staples.
I'm sure. Okay. I'm having a hard time remembering that.
But to not necessarily defend the point, but like support Alyssa's point about like the fourth wall jokes. This movie definitely breaks it a lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And probably further than any other film of his has, with them actually having a cassette of Spaceballs that they play in the middle of the movie, and they get it from a collection of other Mel Brooks films. And then there's an entire not long-standing, but like an entire joke dedicated to the fact that they stop the movie at the exact same moment that they are recording the movie.
And then they go into an Abbott and Costello routine.
I do think that is genius.
Yeah, I always love the references to Abbott and Costello because Abbott and Costello, who's on First Sketch, is like good comedy. I also think so I do think though that this movie does have a lot of fourth wall humor. Like there's a whole bit where they're like, we caught their stunt doubles, not the actual people.
Yes.
Which was funny. And yeah, so like stuff like that. And I also think the hilarious part is that like Dot looks exactly the same as she does.
As C-3PO, except with hair.
No. I meant the stunt double. Her stunt double looks exactly the same because she's in the same costume, which was really funny. Like she might be the real Dot. You never know. But yeah, her being the CP3O stand-in. It was true.
The C-3PO stand-in with Heelys.
Yes.
Yes.
Heelys. Rip Heelys.
No, I think they still exist. I think I've seen people still wearing Heelys.
Oh, thank God.
I don't think they're dead.
Good.
They're just sleeping, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the fourth wall humor here is definitely a little more than in other movies of his. I also think it's also interesting because I think this movie is probably one of the only ones that Mel Brooks has done that really like satirizes something a bit more current. Because most of his other movies satirize movies that are older, like Young Frankenstein is like the original 31 Frankenstein movie. Blazing Saddles is a parody of westerns, which are more 40s, 50s kind of thing. Yeah. I think Star Wars was really Spaceballs was really the only movie he did that was parodizing something that had recently come out or was in the recent memory of the people watching. Yeah. Because this movie came out in 1987, and when did Return of the Jedi come out? 1985, 1986?
Something like that.
Like it came up in the early mid-'80s. So, there's that aspect to it, and yeah, I forgot what I was saying.
Now each one of us has done that.
83. Okay, so
1983 for Star Wars: Return of the Jedi.
So yeah, like relatively recent in comparison to some of the other parody targets that Mel Brooks does. Then we have the other. I wanted to say, I think one of my favorite... So one of the other things about this movie that I like, too, is that it's obviously not just Star Wars that they're riffing off of. Mm-hmm. They basically riff off of most sci-fi. They make reference to Star Trek with the whole beaming up thing. I think the best part of that joke is not necessarily the actual, like, re-scrambling part, but the part where you find out that he was just beaming to, like, the next room over. That, to me, is, like, a really good visual gag, because it just adds to the comedy. I thought the whole diner scene with the alien was also just amazing. The joke even gets better when you realize that the actor who has the chest burster is the same dude who was in Alien who had the chest burster. So,
I did not know that. That's
it's the same guy. That's why he says "not again" when he like faints. So that to me just
That's funny.
Is even better because it just layers on all the layers.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like and then just having the alien get up and do like a
hello my baby, hello my honey, hello my ragtime girl.
Do like a routine before he leaves. Great. And I also thought like they also do what other sci-fi movies did they parodize?
Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah, when after the maid blows up and then they land on the shore and it's a reference to the end of that movie and then the apes are like, well, there goes the neighborhood.
Yep.
I will say that having never seen that as well, I will say I never got that joke. I was like, why does the movie end like that?
Yeah, that one's probably a bit more of an obscure reference if you don't know Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. But that is probably one of the more cultural, the just general cultural things of the Planet of the Apes that, like, the end of the movie, it's like the Statue of Liberty's there on the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, blow it up.
Yeah, you maniacs, blow it up. So it does use more some of the more iconic moments from that movie.
Yes.
I just was never. I never.
Oh yeah. But that's still completely understandable. The only other like particularly notable thing from that movie is like, get your hands off me, you damn dirty ape.
Yeah, that's like the moment when Charlton Heston reveals that he as a human can speak. Because I think in that movie, like the humans can't talk.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that like it's reversed.
Yeah, they reversed it.
But anyway, I think I think the Planet of the Apes joke actually might also be one of the cultural referencey or pop culture referencey jokes that might fall flat if you don't know what they're poking fun at.
Yeah.
Like with Noah, you're just like confused.
Yeah.
Whereas like with the Alien one, even if you haven't seen Alien, it's hilarious that the alien just starts dancing. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Or like with the whole bit with the Star Trek reference, like. You know, the fact that he's being beamed to the other room, or like when he's beamed, his head's on backwards, like that you don't necessarily need to know that Star Trek involves beaming in order to get the joke. So that the Placier one might be a bit of a weaker one, in terms of the overall like satire and other sci-fi stuff. Also, shout outs to the Wizard of Oz parody. That was funny. I guess I feel so alone because I feel like I'm one of the few people our age that like really likes Wizard of Oz. A lot of people I talk to are like, oh, I don't really like that movie, which I guess is weird to me because I grew up watching the movie and I really like it. But like even if you don't know or like the movie as well as I do, that movie, it's just a really funny joke. You know,
but I will say, the Wizard of Oz in this is slightly odd.
It is
because it's not sci-fi.
It isn't sci-fi. It's
like
also...
it's a good cult. Like this is a movie that is doing like a lot of cultural referencing. So like so obviously you're gonna get the Wizard of Oz references. Yeah, but like it's. I mean, I guess with the magic, since Yoda's yogurt is supposed to be magical and the man behind the curtain, yada, yada, yada. But still, in terms of all the movies they are referencing, that's just the kind of the odd one out. Yeah.
I mean, the only other, like, one that they reference that isn't sci-fi is just the Rocky 5 joke. But that's, like, just a one-off thing, so I don't really count it as far as a parody goes.
Yeah, just Rocky 5,000.
That to me is still a funny joke, even though Rocky is not a friend. I mean, technically there is a Rocky 5. Creed, the movie Creed that came out like a couple years ago is technically a Rocky movie. Yeah. It's just not called Rocky.
I mean, that could also be a separate reference to Back to the Future, since that movie also has a joke to like Jaws 19.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think those jokes are in a similar vein in that like they're both like making fun of like franchises that go on for really long, and you're like, how?
Marvel's Cinematic Universe 19 movies in.
Yep.
Anyway,
it's gonna culminate soon.
Yes, it is. But yeah.
So I guess I wanted to ask you guys, what in your opinion is your favorite like joke or bit? I know we've covered a lot of the good ones. I just want to know like which one, like which joke were you like, oh my goodness at? Ooh. For me, my favorite joke has always been the merchandising one. Like I said, I just feel like it's just a great jab at Star Wars, and I also just think the running gag of like Spaceballs the item is great. So that's my favorite.
It's the fourth wall break of when will then be now. That's always going to be the funniest for me. The playing with time in a filmic language that is already playing with time is particularly meta. I was going to say meta theatrical, meta filmic.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of good ones.
I
think I don't know why. I think just because I discovered it and I found it so hilarious yesterday, I think that the Transformers on the Spaceballs, the coloring book.
I'm not even sure that was, like, purposeful. I wonder if... I mean, it could have been, but I also wonder if they just did that because they were looking for, like, a sci-fi-ish looking coloring book, and then...
Yeah.
Transformers, that works.
I don't think that was... Like, Transformers did have a lot of coloring books, but I don't think that was actually a coloring book. I think that would have had to have been intentionally designed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if it, I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that
every single thing you see on a film, on a professional film, is intentional.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, also, minor, very very minor thing that Poe's Optimus is in is actually from a pose from a different red and blue character on the what would it be the current intro for the cartoon.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Fun facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. That and that's like such a small detail, but it's really funny too.
Yeah, the alien one is also great.
Yeah.
It's just so wacky and out there.
Also, I really like the luggage bit. The fact that the code for the airlift is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're just like, that's something an idiot would put on his luggage. And then like the president comes in and he's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the same the same combo I have on my luggage. And it's just the great bit.
I also got to say the one with the action figures. And it's like, sir, what? I told you to knock before disturbing me. You didn't see anything, right? No, I did not see you playing with your dolls again. Pretty dang good. Yeah. No, you got anything?
I know it is unusual for me not to have any particularly, I don't have any complex film theories like the past 4 or the past 3. But let's see if I can rack my brain a little bit here.
If you don't have anything, I actually have a question. If that's okay.
Sure.
And actually, before that, I have one more tiny thing of a fun joke that we also discovered yesterday.
Oh, yes! Oh, my God.
The colonel on the ship is named Colonel Sanders. And it literally exists for one point for Dark Helmet to ask him, "What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken?"
You name one character for just one joke. Great.
But go ahead, Alyssa.
Yeah, so I guess my question, and I wanted to ask this because I think it'd be an interesting thing, is what to you is the weakest point of the movie? So, like, what is there a joke that falls flat? Is there like a sequence that you thought didn't work well?
Sneaking through the ducts of the spaceship.
Okay.
I always fast forward that it just, that's the one part that I'm like, oh, the movie's still going. That's the one part. It's probably about 15 minutes worth of movie that maybe it's a bit plot focused, which is why I find my interest waning.
Okay.
But that's the only part, is when they're sneaking around the air ducts, because they set up such broad comedy, and then when they're in an enclosed space, I think sometimes that could work to its disadvantage. But maybe that was me and my short attention span. So I'm not knocking it any significant points or anything, but that is the one part in the movie where I'm just like, oh, it's still going.
I mean, I will say as well, like, as much as the ship taking forever to get across the screen is a great joke.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a ship going across the screen for 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Right.
So
it's also one of those things that probably is one of those jokes that works better on the first time you see it, and then after you see it, you're like, I guess a joke, and then you just kind of, so I can see that being a fast forward worthy moment.
And also the beaming scene.
Okay.
I feel like that takes a little too long and interrupts the movie a little too much. Just to have the Star Trek reference going on.
Right, yeah.
Like, if that was I think if they, like, quicken up the pace on that a little bit, because it's, like, back and forth to get to, like, hey, we're gonna talk about stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think of a part that I thought was a little weak. I guess, again, the Planet of the Apes one, I already said, was probably one of the more weaker, like, sci-fi references, if only because it only really works if you know that Planet of the Apes exists and what it's about. If you don't, then that also just kind of, like what Noah was saying, is kind of weird and out of place. I also will say that probably one of the sort of flaws of Spaceballs, although I don't really think it's bad necessarily, it's more of like it's more of those, like, what I wish it could have been rather than what it is. so maybe a little unfair, but Spaceballs does not have the same kind of, like, biting criticism that some of the other Mel Brooks movies have. Like, for example, Blazing Saddles is just full of, like, biting criticism of racism. And it seems, and, like, Young Frankenstein, again, is a little more focused in on parodizing one thing. So some of the comedy's a little bit sharper. But, like, in some ways, Spaceballs kind of spreads itself a little bit. Like, it doesn't focus just on Star Wars. It criticizes a lot of, or, like, not criticizes, but makes comedy about, like, it has a wider umbrella of comedy that it does. And I think on one hand, I think Spaceballs is a bit lighter than some of the other Mel Brooks comedies as far as, like the subjects is tackling, or the, like, kind of, like, the it's like, I guess you could sort of say it's lower humor with a bunch of air quotes in comparison. But I also think that sort of works to the film's advantage in some ways, because, again, Star Wars, the thing to remember, and I think a lot of things that people forget, especially some particular fanboys, is that Star Wars is, at its core, very simple and also, like, very accessible as far as, like, movies go. Like, it's not a high concept thing at its nature. Like, I'm not saying that Star Wars doesn't have any deep material in it, or that Star Wars is, like, bereft of, like, complex ideas. Mm-hmm. It's not. They're, like, there are complex ideas in Star Wars, and complex characters horn. But it's also, at the same time, a movie. It's always been a movie that has also been trying to grab at kids as well as adults, too. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit lighter as a movie from a conceptual level, I think, than something like, say, I don't know, I guess it's not, the Spaceballs' comedy, to me, reflects sort of Star Wars, and I think it's a little bit more childish as a consequence. But I don't think that's a bad thing. Again, I think Star Wars, by its nature, is very childish, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the best way possible. I think that Star Wars is accessible to a lot of different people because of its ease of access. But I guess I can see why people might not like Spaceballs because of that childish ease of access aspect to it. They might be wanting a comedy that goes a little bit darker, or because there's not a lot of dark humor in this movie.
No,
like, I would say not much. I mean, and it's not like Mel Brooks is like,
is rated PG.
Huh?
This movie is rated PG, and I would just like to point that out because I find it amusing.
Yeah.
With how many swears there are?
There are a lot of. I mean, actually, it's definitely a movie that's. Well, it's also came out in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair, to get a PG rating at the time, you did need swears.
Yeah, because PG-13 didn't exist at the time.
And I only know this because the Transformers movie at the time had 2 swears in it specifically to guarantee the PG rating rather than a G rating.
Yep. So that is all. That is pretty funny because rating systems are weird, but and it is. I mean, I wouldn't say that, like, Spaceballs is targeted to kids, especially, but I also feel like it is sort of. I feel like PG does feel like the right rating for it. It's not like there's no dark humor, there's no, like, really intense imagery in it or anything.
It's just,
and I mean, like, it's not like Mel Brooks, like, doesn't want to go there, you know, like, the producers makes fun of Hitler, and Hitler's just a touchy subject by the fact that he's Hitler. Blazing Saddles, which is a movie I keep referencing because I love it, is, I think there's a scene in it where there's almost a lynching or a reference to lynching, which is also dark humor. So, you know, like, I don't think KKK's in it, so, like, I don't think Mel Brooks is, like, against going there, but for this movie, he doesn't really cross that line. So, again, for people who are looking for a Mel Brooks comedy that's sort of on the line of some of his more mature stuff, won't find it here. And so I can see that being a weakness. But that's more of a personal taste rather than a knock on the movie.
Okay.
Sorry for rambling about that for so much.
Well, hey, you're on SoundJack's Rambles. So.
I am. It's perfect for me.
Yeah.
Do you have you had time to think now, Noah?
So much my one contact fell out.
Oh no.
In case you were wondering why I was suddenly crying over here.
Oh.
I didn't notice.
I just thought it was because you're so moved by my words, obviously.
That's true.
Did you get a chance to think of what you were trying to think of before?
I think I mentioned it, but in a non-charismatic way.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
I stumbled into it.
Okay.
Right. So the last thing I think I wanted to poke at maybe was like, what we thought of like the background, like setting, that kind of stuff, music. Anything we wanted to say about that? Maybe specific characters we liked too, or nah.
I mean, backgrounds are good. Backgrounds are very nice. All the animation works very well,
Mm-hmm.
and the music to me is so close to Star Wars that when it's not, it bothers me so much.
Yeah, you can tell that in some cases they just kind of like moved 2 notes and then that's what they changed.
I mean, granted, I was reading the development section on Wikipedia, and like he got full rights to do this by George Lucas.
Right. Okay.
The only thing, like, from what I can tell, the only thing, like, really in the agreement that couldn't be done was to make toys of the characters because they would look too similar to the Star Wars ones by the nature of the parody.
Right, yeah.
That's fun.
But, yeah, the background's good. For favorite character,
Dark Helmet all the way. I know it's a basic answer, but
that's what I think I was leading to too. Dark Helmet. Also, I just realized something about Barf's full name.
What?
With how it's spelled, Bartholomew. It has Mew in it, like a cat.
Oh, that's funny. I wonder if that's there purposely. Probably.
Is that how you would normally spell Bartholomew?
Yeah.
Bartholomew?
It's still funny, though.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is how you would normally spell Bartholomew.
Yeah. It's just the earth.
Regardless, it's funny.
Yes. Noah, who would you say?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you said Dark Helmet. Alyssa.
There are a lot of good characters in here. I gotta give a shout out to Bartholomew, actually, because John Candy is just truly, he's one of those comic actors that I'm still really sad that he's no longer with us. Every movie I've seen him in, he's great. And I think he does a great job here. And I think Bartholomew is just, he's such a likable guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just so, and I think I think John Candy really plays the Mog aspect of Bartholomew really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really liked John Candy's role here. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
But I think that's it from us. I think that's all I've got to say.
Cool.
So, final thoughts from folks.
Sure.
I have not seen it in a while, so I should go rewatch it.
You should.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Once you come back home from college, I know you can rent it from one of the libraries around here because that's where we got it.
Oh no, I have it.
Oh, you have it? Okay.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, that's fine then.
I have a final thought. If anybody is able to get the DVD, there is a special feature that is audio commentary with Mel Brooks. And it is very amusing because he sometimes does point out good tidbits and facts and behind-the-scenes trivia. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it's funny because he's just sitting there watching his own movie, being like, "Ooh, I like this part," and then like 10 minutes of silence, and then like it's just very. I've never heard an audio commentary like that. It's very amusing. So you should check that out if you get the chance.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last thought, Spaceballs is a very fun, full of laughs movie. If you like Mel Brooks' work, I'm sure you'll like this one. If you like Star Wars or sci-fi, as I said before, you'll love this. I think that it's just great. It's a great time. And I think what's really great is that it has a lot of rewatch ability. You know, like you and I have noticed things that we never noticed. We've seen this movie multiple times. So I think that, to me, a movie that's you can watch a lot of and still get a lot out of it are movies that really deserve to be, you know, put out there. So definitely watch this movie if you haven't already.
Yes. And I can't really add anything to else. I completely agree with what Alyssa said, and I shall definitely be checking out what Noah suggested.
Yep.
Next chance I get. But yeah, this is a wonderful movie, a wonderfully fun movie. Even though this is mostly sci-fi, you will get very good laughs. There are references to things outside sci-fi. I've been thinking over my comment about the Wizard of Oz being kind of out of there. I'm like, wait, there's a couple other things that are not strictly sci-fi. Like there's an Indiana Jones reference because Harrison Ford was Bo.
Yep.
Also, the fact that he was noted to be found in the Ford Galaxy.
Oh, I just got it.
As an
That's
orphan,
hilarious.
he was found in the Ford Galaxy.
That's funny.
That one made me cringe a little bit, honestly. But nonetheless, it's still a very good movie, very fun movie.
Yep.
And definitely one I would recommend. But before we sign off, Noah, where can people find you?
People can find me on YouTube. Just search Noah Sunday Lefkowitz. You'll find my original music, my music performances, and my Disney vlogs. You can also find me on Instagram at Noah Sunday Lefkowitz or on my website, noahsundaylefkowitz.com.
I think this guy's name is Noah Sunday Lefkowitz, but that's just me.
Every single time I have recorded the podcast, a different person has made that joke.
I mean, it is true.
I didn't know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to play it to
How dare you repeat a used joke that you didn't know about?
I haven't. Okay, I'll be honest. I haven't listened to a lot of the other podcasts because I've been busy. But sorry.
But
so for
if
me,
it's a joke, use it up. That's fine.
We'll run this joke into the ground eventually.
Do it.
Yeah. So for me, you can find me on Twitter and Tumblr at The Rational Dove. I currently am on Twitter, talking about my Fire Red randomized Nuzlocke challenge that I'm doing. So if that interests you, check me out for some updates. Yeah, feel free to give me a shout out. Also, plug for Nerd Geek Talk. I'm on there. Hopefully Anime Overdrive will be up soon again.
Yeah.
So far it's been a little rough, but yeah. So you can check me out there too.
Yes. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at SoundJack426. And also please consider donating to my Patreon page to help support the channel. And you can find all of those links in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and this is SoundJack, Noah, and Alyssa signing off.